This module is dedicated to the power of connection. It's one thing for you to set off on writing your story down, but there's so many other things to take into consideration when you look at releasing that book out into the world. The power of connection is what separates something you would write for yourself versus something that's going to really have a lasting impact on the people who have the privilege of picking up your book. So by the end of this module, you'll have a clear understanding of 3 very powerful ways that you can connect both within the pages of your book and out there in the big wide world that will help your message to truly soar. The first level of connection is connection with self. And the reason why this is the number 1 level to conquer is that if you're not connected to your story, you're not going to give it your all when it comes to writing it down and ultimately sharing it out there. The great news is that you've already completed this level of connection when you undertook the 5 why technique. So you've already ticked and flicked this amazing level of connection. So congratulations. Keep that connection and that why burning brightly. Now, the second level is connection to story. Now, it might seem like a weird thing to bring up because after all, you've lived your life and you've learnt your knowledge, right? So you've lived it. But the reason that it's important to flag this at this stage is that there is a true difference in how you turn up and how you write, depending on where you are at in your journey. I've been fortunate to work with so many aspiring authors over the years, but there have been a handful that have been still so anchored in the situations that they want to write about that it actually makes it really difficult for them to complete the writing journey. Now, what I mean by this is that they are writing from the wound instead of the scar. When you boil that right down, writing from the wound really means, A, that you're right in the thick of the situation. There hasn't been a resolution and a chance for reflection. Now, the contrast of this is writing from the scar. Now, what that means is that you have actually overcome the challenge or the situation that you found yourself in. You've had a chance to rebuild your life and come out even stronger than before, and maybe even had the opportunity to reflect on that journey and uncover some precious gems and pearls of wisdom that you can now share with your readers. So how do you tell the difference? Now, this is my jam, so I can easily see in other people where they're at in terms of their comfortability with sharing their story. But for you, I'd love to give you a little tool that you can use, a little exercise you can try out to see if you are writing from the wound or writing from the scar. So to test this out for yourself, just give yourself a little bit of time and make sure you've got some kind of recording device with you. It could be as simple as the voice memos on your smartphone. Now, all you have to do is sit down and talk out a section of your story. Now, it is important to make sure that you pick a section that is quite challenging for you to cover. And the reason for that is that you will be challenged to tell that part of your story. So this is going to be a bit of a challenging exercise, but it is okay to challenge ourselves sometimes because that's how we grow and evolve. So give yourself the space to get the entirety of that story out. And you may even want to step away from your phone, maybe grab a cup of coffee, have some time out, just distract yourself for a moment or two. When you come back, you can listen through to the story with fresh ears. Now, what I want you to listen for when you play it back is the kind of language that you use. One of the key elements that stand out when you're writing from the wound is that your language is very heavy. It often contains connotations of guilt, of shame, of blame, and a lot of anger. Now, I want to caveat that it is okay to feel these feelings as you're writing your book. But if this is the predominant way that you are coming out in your storytelling, it might be a good idea to direct your writing and your energy towards more of a journal or diary style of writing for now. Now, I say for now because everything that you're feeling and experiencing is valid, and you should never overlook the power of being able to capture something while you're in the moment. So even if that's the case for you, you can still power forward with this workshop to get the understanding of what your future book is going to look like. And when the time is right, you can add in that beautiful reflection and that regrowth and that stage of the phoenix that most readers really love to engage with in any book that they pick up. Now I have seen this transformation from the wound to the scar in a beautiful way through a client who I will call Sally, because I can't name her real name. Now, Sally, when we first connected, she wanted to write about a really, challenging relationship that she had been in for over 2 decades. Now, her and her partner had separated only a year or two earlier, but just in the way that she was talking about him, about their relationship, and about how it had impacted her, I could tell straight away that she would have knocked him out if he was in the same room. And she was really heavily still in the pain of that situation. And rightly so. It was a long time of her adult life that she dedicated to this relationship. And for it to fail, anyone's going to feel the pain of that. Now, I've brought this to Sally's attention, which is always a difficult conversation to have. But what it did was it helped to empower her to take further action, to feel more comfortable in who she was as a free, powerful, single woman who was out there ready to take on the world with her lessons, the lessons she had learned from the relationship. So ultimately, Sally was able to recognize that she still had more inner work to do in order to be ready to share her message with the world. So that fired her up on all cylinders to step into the powerful woman that she was with all of the learned knowledge and experience of that relationship in order to create a book that connected with women around the world who would be able to resonate with a lot of the things that she had been through, and also have the benefit of learning from those pearls of wisdom that she was able to uncover from that experience. So the third powerful way that you can connect is to your audience. Now, when we think about it, it's one thing to write a journal for ourselves, and it's another to write a book that's going out there into the big wide world. The difference with the second approach to writing is that you've really got to think about who is going to pick up your book on the other end. Now, time and time again, I see aspiring authors who are so passionate about their message that when I ask them who their audience is, the response is anyone or everyone, and anyone can take away something from my message. That is amazing. There's only one small issue with that, and that is, how do you write for everyone? To be able to connect with your audience, it's so imperative that you identify who your ideal reader is. Now, this can be a challenge for first-time authors like yourself because you don't want to exclude anyone. The idea is that you want to get it into as many hands as possible, right? So this can be a bit of a challenge for the mindset, but stay with me because trust me, it's going to make your writing journey so much easier. Now, you may not have seen one of these since high school science or maths, but I'm going to present to you the bell curve. So in maths and science, this was always used for probability. So the highest probability, and there was always a probability that something else could happen in any given situation. Now, when we apply this to books and choosing our ideal reader, we put our amazing ideal reader up the top of this bell curve. So this is who we are focusing all of our energy on, and I'll tell you why in just a short moment. But the reason why choosing an ideal reader doesn't exclude anyone else is that there will still be people who pick up your book for all kinds of reasons. So if you have identified your ideal reader as a married mother of 3, for example, in her 50s, you may still get women who are younger and unmarried without children who will pick up your book. You may still get fathers who will pick up your book. You may get people all the way down here who will pick up your book just because it has an awesome cover. And you'll have people down here who pick up your book simply because they were scrolling through Amazon and the title of your book captured their attention. So there's so many reasons why people will pick up your book. But if we try to write for all of these people, the chances are your message is not going to land with any of them. And that is why your ideal reader is the king of or queen of this castle, and the person that we need to get very clear on before you can move forward with any more of your book creation. So who is this mysterious king or queen at the top of this bell curve? We are going to spend some time now as the activity for this module for you to get very clear on who that is. Now, I'd love to share a couple of examples for you. The first is a beautiful woman by the name of Judy, who was part of my Ignite and Write mentorship program. Now, she studied a PhD in domestic violence back in the 1990s and published a thesis on the behaviour of domestic violence abusers. Now, Judy had a goal to republish this thesis in a format that was more accessible to everyone, was how we started, let's be honest. She wanted it to be accessible to everyone, which meant removing the jargon, making it less statistic-based, and introducing a lot more of the storytelling and the real-life women that she had been able to connect with in the years since the thesis had been published. So like many before her and many that will come after her, Judy's goal was to link in with everyone. But because her work was so diverse, she had a lot of potential different ideal readers. And we had to really hone in on which one she wanted to focus on in order to make sure that she could be very specific in the way that she crafted her book. So because Judy's base material was very universal, she had 4 potential ideal readers that she could potentially write for with her updated book. Now, these included domestic abuse survivors, women who were still stuck in abusive relationships, people who work in the counselling sphere who support the women in these relationships, and also law enforcement, because she really had a passion to try and drive change from that level. Now, it can be challenging to select one of those 4. They are all very worthy ideal readers. So it was important for Judy to understand that while she picked one that would frame the context of her stories, the relevance of which statistics she used, and the tone in which she wrote the book, if even by choosing one, there may still be people from the other 3 elements that would pick up her book and still take away something really powerful from it. So for example, let's look through how writing for each of the 4 different ideal readers is actually very different. So if Judy were to pick the domestic abuse survivors as her target market or her ideal reader, she would be writing a lot more about the case studies and the real life experiences of the women that she has worked alongside in those years following the publication of her thesis. What that does is for those readers, it helps to bring in that sense of connection, familiarity, and that bond. When they have those 3 things, they will be able to take on the lessons and the important teachings that Judy wants to impart on them. If Judy were to pick the women who are still in abusive relationships as her ideal reader, her language would be much gentler, softer, and more nurturing in order to connect with them on that really emotional level. So the beauty of this is that they're able to learn in a very organic way and take that knowledge on board in order to empower their decision-making going forward. Now, if Judy were to pick counsellors as her ideal reader, obviously there's a whole world of jargon that would come into this and, clinical text speak. The chances are that anyone working in the social work environment would be looking for evidence-based research and statistics that would support what it is that she is wanting to share. Therefore, you can see there's a huge difference in tone between each of the 3 so far. And that evolves even further when you bring the 4th ideal reader in, the law enforcement officials. So we're talking police officers, potentially even the judicial system. Now you can see from those 2 environments that Judy would have to incorporate elements from previous court cases as well as any precedents that had been set in the past in order to show how the system could be improved and where it has fallen down in the past. Again, a whole other level of different languaging and a different approach entirely to more of a story-based style with some of the earlier ideal readers. So you can see how very vitally important it is to identify this king or queen at the top of your bell curve in order to make your writing journey as seamless as possible. So who is your ideal reader? Let's go on this journey together and discover who this mystery person is so that you know exactly who you're writing for going forward. So it comes down to the questions that I had drummed into me time and time again as a journalist. It's all the W's and the H. So who, what, when, where, why, and how. Now we can scrap why off because you've already got that nailed. You know why you're writing your book. But who are we writing for? So have a think about the demographics of that person. Are they a certain age? Are they married or unmarried? Does that even matter? Do they have children or not? Does that matter? There's no right or wrong. It really is fluid to who you feel the most pull towards to help. What is it that you can teach them? Have a really clear think about the message that you're wanting to share with that ideal reader. And that can often help to light the pathway of who that person might be. Where do you want to meet them on their journey? Are you wanting to meet them while they're in the midst of a challenge and don't know how to get out? Do you want to catch them before they enter into the challenge as a preventative measure? Or do you want to catch them when they've already been through it as well, and you can show them how to start that beautiful rebuild that happens and help them with that final leg of the journey of evolution? When we look at when, we want to think about when the reader puts your book down, finish that final page, what is it that you want to have lingering in their mind from that moment on? When do you want to see them start to take action? And what does that look like? All of these amazing things can help you to shape who your ideal reader is. Now we've covered the why, so let's look at the how. How are you going to connect and engage with this reader? Now, as we move through the modules, you'll get a clearer understanding of the how. So that's something we can park for now. So if you focus on all of the W's, it will really help your ideal reader to start to take shape. So I'd love to share my ideal reader with you. Now you'll see from your author's pack that you have this beautiful mind map on the front, which we will get to very, very soon. But for the purpose of this activity, I'd love you to focus in on your little audience person. Now, it may seem a little bit funny that even though I'm asking you all of these questions, the goal of this activity is to actually come away with your own real person that you can write to. That sounds crazy, but I love a bit of crazy when we're in the creative world of writing. The reason that it's important to create a real person is that when you sit down to write, it's easier to be motivated and geared forward and know what kind of language to use when you're writing for a specific someone. All right, so who is my ideal reader? I'm going to introduce her to you. So you can hear that she is a she. And this is her, and her name is Kelly. So who is Kelly? She is a mother. She is a successful career woman or an entrepreneur. She is driven and she is passionate about her industry. What does Kelly need as a reader? She needs direction because she knows that there's something burning inside of her that needs to come out. She's not quite sure how to do it yet. So where am I meeting her? Right at the start of her authorship journey. When Kelly puts down the first of my books, which is The Mindful Author, she is going to know that she has everything that she needs to be a successful author and be on her way to laying strong foundations for her book. So what is my why to reach Kelly as my ideal reader? My why, as we've already learned, is to really make sure that everyone's voices are heard. And Kelly's voice, among all of the other authors, is just as powerful, just waiting to be unleashed. And the how of how this message is going to be communicated to Kelly, we will unfold even further when we get to the mind mapping and structure modules that lay ahead. Now, Kelly is up here for me as the ideal reader. So she is my pinnacle. And when I sit down to write, I'm writing for Kelly because I'm going to be teaching her as the book unfolds. Now, Kelly might be my ideal reader, a successful mother, but I might also get men who pick up the book because they also have that drive to be an author. So they would come in here on my beautiful bell curve. There may also be men or women who pick up the book who aren't parents. That's my experience, and that's the lens that I am writing from. But there may be a whole host of other readers who pick it up who don't have families of their own, and they are not excluded. There may also be readers out there who aren't as sure as Kelly that they're ready to go on this journey. So they're still kind of dipping their toe in the water to see if authorship is for them. They come a little bit further down. There may also be readers who have tried to take on this journey of authorship on their own and have ended up stuck or really unsure of how to keep moving forward. So they are down here. There may also be people who see the cover of the book and that beautiful illustration of the phoenix rising out of the pages of the book that my illustrator, Cara Ord, created for me, and really connect with that symbolism on an energetic or spiritual level and pick up the book for that reason. So they'll be a little bit further down, a little less likely for that to happen. And then there will be the people who are trawling through Amazon. They've put something into the search engine like how to write a book or how to write a bestseller, and my book has come up in their search engine. So it's a happy accident, which I love, but they will purchase the book. So they are all the way down here. And that really is only scratching the surface of the potential many other people that could end up with a copy of the Ignite and Write trilogy in their hands. Now, just because I'm writing for Kelly doesn't mean that I'm excluding all of these people and many, many others from getting a copy of my book in their hands. So now you've seen how it was that I was able to create Kelly as my ideal reader. I'd like for you to be aware that that didn't just happen on the spot. It was something that I definitely took a lot of time and consideration to make sure that I was crafting the perfect niche reader for my book. So don't worry if it doesn't come to you straight away, but the magic is in the process, because by taking the time and anchoring this in, you are going to have a specific person to write to and be able to write with ease going forward. Now, the magic of this, and something I have seen happen before many times, is that your ideal reader may even be a younger version of yourself. So don't feel like you have to look outside of yourself to identify someone external. It could be as simple as knowing that this was the book or this was the message that you needed to hear when you were younger. I'm excited for you to bring this ideal reader to life, and I'm looking forward to helping you transform yourself to an even higher level in the next module.